applause, please. Such great range. So thank you for having me here. I am thrilled to be back, to come to this wonderful space, to be allowed to share my words with you. And I need to just, as a disclaimer, say I do not have the market on wisdom cornered. I don't. All that I am is simply a survivor of the human condition. But all of you in this room as well are attempting to survive it too. And so all that I want to do is talk to you about hope and about fear. Trigger warning. At some part in this talk, towards the end, ever so briefly, I will use the word cancer. And so if that will be triggering to you, feel free to leave now, maybe watch it on screen, or just be aware, okay? It'll be coming, but it won't be a big emphasis. All right, the title of my talk is Choosing Hope, a Garment, a Ripple, and a Button. And I want to begin by talking about fear, because we humans are wired for it. We're wired for it because it is part of self-preservation. We are wired for it because our ancestors, how many ever thousands or tens of thousands of years ago on the savannah, had to make a very quick decision when they saw something living coming towards them. They had to decide whether that thing coming towards them was going to greet them or eat them, whether they needed to stand and fight or run for the hills. And that wiring, that ancestral wiring, is present in all of us. And it shows up in a variety of ways. And we are afraid of things other than that because we are just generally fearful. We humans are afraid. Will we die alone? Will we die poor? Will we get sick? All of those fears are parts of what we exist with the human condition. But the fear I am talking about specifically is the fear of other. It is. And we are seeing that fear play out in America right now, every day, with the greatest, most horrible acts of oppression happening in our country as I speak, in our city as I speak, in Carver County, where I live. Fear. Now, I also want to acknowledge your congregant, Sue, who understands something important about fear, and that is this: we must face it. Because when we face fear, when we face it, when we lean into it, we provide hope for others. We do. And I'm going to share some examples of that for you, and hopefully to give you reason to hope. So as I said, my talk is Choosing Hope, a Garment, a Ripple, and a Button. Let's talk about the garment. I don't know if anybody noticed, but on December 1st, we passed the 70th anniversary of a great American who faced her fear, Rosa Parks. December 1st was the 70th anniversary of her arrest in Montgomery, Alabama. And can we all imagine the fear that she had sitting on that bus in the front seat, refusing to give up her seat, with the things that white bus passengers were saying to her, that the white bus driver was saying to her, and then the bus driver driving to police station and then having the police come and speak to her. Can we imagine the fear that she had? And yet, she sat there. She didn't give up that seat. Now, from her, as you heard Mickey speak about ripples of hope. And from her, something rippled to a young pastor in Montgomery, relatively unknown, but quite the orator, who had been in Montgomery barely a year. And I'm talking about Dr. King, of course. And you know, very few people know that after Rosa Parks, well, I mean, some people know this, sorry, that after Rosa Parks was arrested, they organized a bus boycott of the bus system in Montgomery. And they tapped Dr. King to be the spokesperson, to be the leader of that boycott. Few people know that when the bus boycott began in December of 1955, Dr. King and his wife, Coretta, had a newborn. The baby wasn't even a month old. And can you imagine the fear that Dr. King had being tapped in a white, in a white, suppressive, oppressive state to lead a bus boycott for black people? And that fear was founded because a month and a half after the boycott began, Dr. King's home was bombed. Bombed. And Coretta and the baby were in the house at the time. They attempted to bomb it again in the months after. And then in April of 1956, Dr. King was arrested for speeding and put in jail for 2 weeks. Can you imagine the fear that he had? And yet he faced it. He leaned into it. And with a little bit more than a year after the boycott began, the U.S. Supreme Court declared that segregation on public buses was illegal. And they won. The boycott broke the system in Montgomery. And Dr. King, of course, continued. And he continued to face an oppressive system. And by April of 1963, he was in jail again, this time in Birmingham. And while for parading without a permit, you see how the oppressive system works, of course. And while he was in jail, he penned one of the most important pieces of writing in the civil rights movement, his letter from a Birmingham jail. It is a long letter. It's a letter that he wrote imploring white pastors in Montgomery, in Alabama, to step forward, to be allies to the black community, because they were afraid, and they refused to join. They refused to join the marches, refused to join the movement. And in that letter, he, as I said, one of the most important pieces of writing in the civil rights movement, he wrote maybe one of the most important 2 sentences of the civil rights movement. Quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." And folks, we are playing that out today. What we see on the screens with people being taken. Am I right? That affects all of us, does it not? Yes. That's our garment. The second part of this talk is a ripple. And you already heard Mickey talk about the ripples of hope, that the ripples of how humans, from Bobby King's speech in 1966 in Cape Town. And think of the fear that he had to have had. His brother was assassinated 3 years before. He was going to a country where the government held down black people. He was going and they did not want him there. Think about the fear that he faced. But one of the things in that speech, other than the ripples of hope, is he said this, quote, "Our answer is the world's hope. It is to rely on youth. The cruelties and the obstacles of this swiftly changing planet will not yield to obsolete dogmas and outworn slogans. It cannot be moved by those who cling to a present which is already dying, who prefer the illusion of security to the excitement and danger which comes with even the most peaceful progress. The world demands the qualities of youth, not a time of life, but a state of mind, a temper of the will, a quality of imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the life of ease." Think of that. Youth isn't a time of life. It is a state of mind. How many of you in this great space are of a younger mind? Me, Ellie Krug, I'm thinking I'm about 22 years old. Just saying. The third part, so I've talked about a garment. Mickey helped me talk about a ripple. The third part of this talk is about a button. Now, I'm a writer, and I'm always on the lookout for good writing, because mine is average, mediocre, some would say. Although, please read my books. But in September of 2018, I came across a piece in the Sun magazine. And I don't know if you know about the Sun, but it is a wonderful magazine. It's got a lot of literature in it, and a lot of things that make you think. And I came across a piece by a poet named Tony Hoagland. And the piece was written, "The cure for racism is cancer." And as it had turned out, Tony Hoagland, the poet, in his 60s, had developed cancer. And Tony Hoagland found himself being treated in Houston at a huge facility where he encountered people who were other. People not with the white skin color, people who were not born in the United States. He encountered fellow patients that were like that, who were not like him, who were other. And then, more importantly, he encountered professionals, medical professionals and caregivers who were other, not like him. And that experience made him to understand that in the end, there is no difference between us and them. There is just humans. And as he looked around at other folks suffering from cancer, as he looked around at the professionals helping him, he came to conclude that it was possible for humans to get past the things that separate us. And so, in this piece, as I said, the cure for racism is cancer, Tony Hoagland wrote a very hopeful message. He said, quote, "The historical record for intolerance, for human learning, is not promising. Yet, I believe more than ever that at the bottom of each human being, there is a reset button. Undoubtedly, undeniably, it is difficult to get to. To reach it seems to require that the ego be demolished by circumstances, hence cancer. but reach that button and press it, and the world might reshape itself. I cannot stress enough the significance of Tony Hoagland's essay. I urge you to find it, to read it, and to send it to everyone in your life. Because when I read that at a time when I was ramping up to do my speaking across the country about the need for us to treat each other better, about the need for us to get past our fear of other, for our need to understand that there really only is us, all attempting to survive the human condition. Now, as for me, I have many, many fears. I do. Top of mind right now is my fear of being dispatched. You see, the government, as we speak, is working to create a whole new class of domestic terrorists. Domestic terrorists that they will define as people who challenge capitalism, who challenge Christianity, who challenge the family. I mean, I know this sounds very crazy. But one category that they're working to create domestic terrorism about is gender ideology. And I have fear, I do, that they will come for me. I have fear that I may be killed by my government or someone inspired by it. But you know what? And I have thought about running. I've thought about leaving. But I won't. I can't. It's not in my constitution. It's not possible. Because there are many, many people who I've come to find depend on me, rely on me to be brave. And so I have chosen, and I urge all of you to choose, this. Yes. This. This. Because this represents not being afraid. This represents choosing to face in, choosing not to run, choosing hope over fear. All of you in this room, I know you're afraid. I know you are scared. I know you are worried about things today and what things may be tomorrow. And all that I can do is implore you to lean in, to face the fear, and to be brave, and to choose hope over fear. Thank you very much.